Billionaire stumbles upon hotel cleaner in tears discover the hidden, life-changing surprise. Jack Thompson, the toast of the city, was hustling through the opulent lobby of the Grand Crest Hotel, his finely tailored suit glistening under golden chandeliers. Billionaire CEO of Dynamics Corp, he had a presentation to crush, a deal to celebrate. His heart thrummed with the pulse of ambition, but then it happened. He veered into the shadows of a forgotten hallway. There, sitting on the cold marble floor, was Maria, a hotel cleaner, her face buried in her hands, streams of tears cascading down her cheeks. The juxtaposition was stunning. The bright lights and polished surfaces contrasted sharply with the raw despair before him. Jack, momentarily rattled, felt something deep inside, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. "Hey, are you okay?" he stammered, unsure. Maria looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, full of pain. I can't do it anymore," she choked out, revealing layers of heartache. A single mother working multiple shifts to keep afloat, she balanced the weight of her daughter's needs and her own mother's failing health. Jack felt a tightness in his chest. Here she was, a warrior, fighting each day against a system that seemed to overlook people like her. Her story spilled out in jagged waves between sobs. With each word, Jack's stomach knotted. This was the reality he often ignored behind the wall of his wealth, the invisible forces keeping so many from thriving, while he soared higher every day. How many others were there like Maria, battling silently against the crushing tide of economic disparity? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he listened, his heart raced with guilt and resolve. Looking into her eyes, he glimpsed the strength and dignity that sometimes felt smothered by obstacles far beyond her control. He couldn't turn away. Each of Maria's struggles felt like a mirror reflecting his values of loyalty and dignity he once held dear. But then the weight of his world crashed back in. His colleagues, the ones walking around with their heads held high, scoffed at discussions of empathy and social responsibility. Did they even see Maria, or was she just another ghost to them? Jack's mind swirled in chaos. His thirst for success had bred a detachment, a deliberate blindness to the pleas of workers like Maria. But here he stood, at a crossroads filled with moral ambiguity. Should he risk his reputation and power for someone whose story shifted his entire perception of success? Or should he retreat to the safe haven of his corporate bubble? Taking a deep breath, Jack reached out to Maria with trembling fingers. In that moment, things felt heavier yet brighter, hope crackling in the air like static. "What can I do to help?" he finally asked, determination igniting deep within. As Maria looked at him, a flicker of hope danced in her eyes too, but would his decision unravel his carefully constructed world, or would it weave the beginning of an unexpected alliance that could change everything? Maria took a deep breath, her chest heaving as she absorbed Jack's offer. The flicker of hope in her eyes teetered precariously on the edge of disbelief. It was rare that anyone, much less a man like him, ever paused to ask how she was doing, let alone offer help. This moment felt almost surreal, like a scene from one of her daughter's fairy tales where a prince swoops in to rescue the damsel in distress. Shaky hands brushed her tears away as she steadied herself. I don't know," she whispered, her voice still frail. The enormity of the situation sank in. Could she really trust this man? What if this was just a momentary act of compassion, destined to fade as quickly as it had sparked? "I mean anything, really. Just something to help me catch my breath." Jack nodded, his determination hardening. "I can help with your job situation," he said. "Maybe I can arrange for you to get more hours or even look into better paying opportunities. You shouldn't have to feel this way." The earnestness in his tone seemed to resonate, threading a connection deeper than the surface pleasantries they were used to in their separate worlds. As Maria listened, her heart raced with a mix of hope and skepticism. She had grown used to people making promises they never intended to keep. The boss who said he would raise her pay, the landlord who promised he wouldn't raise the rent each time was a bitter reminder of the times she'd been left holding the bag while others turned away. Yet, something in Jack's eyes felt different. There was a sincerity behind that polished veneer. "I don't want charity," she finally murmured, a hint of defiance sparking in her words. "I just want a chance to provide for my family. To work hard and earn my keep." Jack could see the fire in her. "That's fair. I respect that. But it's about more than just work, Maria. It's about a system that is rigged against people like us." Her brow furrowed at his words. "People like us?" She echoed before realizing she didn't have to justify her existence to him. Here was a wealthy man who had built his empire on the backs of people like her, yet he recognized her struggle. She sensed a shift within herself, a tiny ember of courage igniting in the shadows. Jack felt the tension in her posture lessen just slightly. "What if we turn this into something more? I have connections, people who it seems would benefit from hearing your story, really hearing it. You could give a voice to those invisible workers, Maria. Maybe together, we can create something that changes lives." The enormity of his words washed over her. Speak out? Could she do that? Her heart raced with what-ifs and doubts. Yet, this feeling of empowerment started to bubble inside her, battling her fears. "What are you saying? You want me to advocate for workers like me?" she asked, thunderstruck. "Exactly," Jack replied, a familiar gleam in his emerald eyes. "You're stronger than you know. And I suspect you're the key to opening doors for others trapped in the same cycle. If you're willing, I want to be part of that change." Maria hesitated. It felt monumental, daring even. But heartache had tempered her into a warrior. "What if it backfires? What if I fail?" "Then we'll try again," he said simply, unwavering as if he genuinely believed in her. The walls around her began to crumble. Could it be that simple? Jack was offering not just help, but a partnership. At a moment when she had felt most alone, she now faced an unexpected glimmer of possibility. Yet as the doubt lingered in the corners of her mind, something told her that this was only the beginning. As questions swirled around them, one thing became undeniably clear: their lives were interwoven now in ways neither had anticipated. And as they stood there, two souls at the precipice of change, the distant echo of footsteps pulled them from their moment. Maria clenched her fists, a mix of excitement and fear surging through her. "What comes next, Jack?" With a sharp breath, he replied, "We confront the challenges ahead. Together." Little did they know, their newfound alliance would be tested in ways that neither could foresee. Would they be strong enough to face the looming trials together, or would their connection crumble under the weight of reality? Maria's heart beat a rhythm of uncertainty as she stared into Jack's hopeful gaze. The street around them, usually bustling with life, faded into an abstract blur. All she could hear was the hum of possibility, the thought of stepping into a world far removed from her small, constricted life. "Together," she repeated, letting the word linger in the air. It felt heavy and light all at once, like holding onto a balloon while standing at the edge of an open field. The potential for flight hovered nearby, but so did the fear of the fall. Jack broke the spell, his tone shifting to a more businesslike approach. "Let us meet with my contacts tomorrow. They're working on initiatives for worker rights, and with your story, we could bridge a gap they weren't even aware existed." Maria nodded, still grappling with the enormity of this change. Could she actually voice her experiences, her pain? Her stomach clenched at the thought of sharing her life with strangers. But then, juxtaposed against that fear was a flicker of excitement. Perhaps this was her moment to step away from shadows. "Okay," she managed to say, her voice stronger than she felt. "Great." Jack beamed, the enthusiasm evident in his eyes. "We'll start crafting your narrative. I can help guide you through it. Your story needs to be told, Maria." And just like that, a partnership was born from the ashes of her doubt. They parted ways, his promise of support echoing in her hopes. But as she headed back home, a familiar heaviness settled onto her shoulders. The weight of past disappointments whispered in her mind that things could go wrong, that she could be used and discarded like yesterday's news. Later that night, Maria sat on the edge of her bed, the glow of her phone illuminating the darkened room. The screens of social media flashed images of success, wealth, comfort, a world she had long looked at from the outside. Thousands sought solace in stories like her own, but how could she make her voice matter? Her daughter, Sophia, poked her head into the door, her innocent curiosity momentarily dispelling Maria's thoughts. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, sensing the tension that had enveloped the room. "I'm just thinking, sweetheart, about work and some changes," Maria replied, forcing a smile. "Things might get better for us." Sophia's eyes lit up. "Like a superhero?" she asked, her childlike belief illuminating the dim atmosphere. "You can be the hero for all the invisible workers like you, right?" Maria chuckled softly, but a swell of pride burst within her. Her daughter's unwavering faith echoed Jack's words, and suddenly, the prospect didn't feel so daunting anymore. Maybe she really could be that hero, or at least part of something bigger than herself. "Absolutely, Mija," she whispered, pulling Sophia close for a warm embrace. "But even superheroes sometimes feel scared." "We believe in you, Mom," Sophia said, her voice firm and confident. The next day arrived with a sense of purpose and unease. As Maria approached the building where she would meet Jack's contacts, her pulse quickened. She felt as if she was about to jump into the unknown. What would they ask? Could she really convey the struggles of hundreds like her? As she walked through the door, the light blinded her for a moment. The reality of her choice was crystal clear now. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for a community that had long been overlooked. Jack greeted her with an encouraging smile, and together they walked into the conference room where the meeting would take place. The air thick with anticipation, Maria felt the storm within her grow. But as they stepped inside, a voice rose from the crowd, sending a shiver down her spine. What does a hotel cleaner know about the struggles of real workers? The challenge lay before her, and Maria's heart raced. Could she find the words to silence that doubt? Would the very first test of her newfound strength be the moment she would crumble, or would she rise to the occasion? In that room, under the scrutiny of questioning eyes, Maria took a deep breath, her courage igniting once more. "Let me tell you about my journey." And in that moment, everything was about to change, not just for her, but for all those who had been kept in silence. Where would this newfound strength lead her? What doors would it open, and would she be ready to walk through them? Maria felt the weight of the moment as she stood before the attentive crowd. The gathering buzzed with murmurs, challenges still lingering in the air. The voice that had questioned her pierced through her defenses, but she reminded herself of who was counting on her. She swallowed hard, pushed down the fear, and let the words spill out like a long-held secret. "My journey isn't glamorous. It's filled with shadows and whispers," she began, her tone steadying with each syllable. "For years, I cleaned rooms that masked pain and joyful celebrations alike. You may think my fight is insignificant, but it's as real as the dust I wipe away every day." Murmurs faded, her voice gaining strength. She shared the story of her early mornings, aching muscles, the cruel judgments, and the heartache of being unseen. She spoke of the countless hours, the bending of pride, but also the resilience she had built in pockets of loneliness. She painted a picture of the invisible workers, those who kept the world running while being crushed beneath its weight. As she spoke, she noticed how the room transformed. Faces leaned in, expressions softened, the skepticism beginning to wane. Jack sat nearby, beaming with pride, nudging her on with encouraging glances. With each story, her narrative changed from personal to universal. She was no longer just Maria the hotel cleaner, she was a voice for herself and for people like her, who deserved to be heard. "I've fought for every inch of dignity," she continued. "I've seen people cry because they couldn't afford a meal. I've watched families struggle to stay together while juggling bills and dreams. And, yes, I know what it feels like to sometimes lose hope. But I'm here today to tell you, hope isn't lost. Change can happen, but we need to acknowledge the struggle together." A slow ripple of claps started, hesitant but growing louder. Encouragement flared from unexpected corners of the room. A woman from the back stood, her voice resonating with energy. "You're right. We need to address this." Others chimed in, nodding, some even reaching for their phones to take notes. Maria felt the fire growing inside her. Encouragement had become a flame. She had ignited something within the space, a desire to listen, a thirst for change transforming casual observers into passionate participants. Then, as her speech flowed seamlessly, she noticed the man who had thrown the initial doubt behind a pen and paper. His brow furrowed as he scribbled intently, processing her words. What was he thinking? Was she reaching him? As she wrapped up, a sense of euphoria surged through her. "Together, we can bring light to those who remain in darkness. I stand here vulnerable but fierce, ready to be heard." The room erupted into applause now, and Maria's heart soared. For once, in a room full of uncertainty, she felt anchored. But just as she modeled courage to others, doubt lingered in the back of her mind. Would their reactions translate into support? Would they follow through, or was this just a moment of fleeting sympathy? Jack stepped forward, but before he could speak, the skeptical man stood up again. "I want to help, but we need more." "What's your dream, Maria? How can we make it happen?" Caught off guard, Maria hesitated as reality set in. It was one thing to share her pain, it was another to envision the future she wanted, a future beyond just survival but filled with advocacy, justice, and acknowledgement. Deep breaths filled the space as she looked out at the sea of expectant faces, inspiration surging through her veins. Was she ready for her dream? Did she have a plan to guide them? "Let me think about that," she said slowly, a spark of determination brightening her expression. "But I know it starts with this conversation," and as she spoke those words, Maria realized something that both excited and terrified her. This was not just about sharing her story. A community was forming, ready to fight with her. What vision did she have for this burgeoning movement? And could she lead them into the light, or was this just the beginning of an even greater struggle? Maria stood before the crowd, heart racing, as she felt the weight of their collective gaze. She could sense the shift in energy, from skepticism to possibility. After her speech, questions erupted in her mind. What did it mean to dream big, especially now? With the crowd still buzzing, she took another deep breath, her resolve hardening. The man who had prompted her reflection, tall and imposing, remained fixed on her. His sharp eyes seemed to weigh her thoughts. "So, what does this conversation lead to?" he asked, tone serious but with a hint of curiosity. She hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "It leads us to forming a support network," she said boldly, surprising even herself. "To lift each other up, to create awareness about the struggles we face daily. We need people to hear our stories of resilience and strength." An older gentleman in the front row nodded. "How do we reach those who need support the most? Not just here, but in every corner of this city?" "Social media could help," Maria suggested, her confidence building. "We can create a platform where voices like ours are amplified. Share our experiences. Amplifying not just the struggles but the successes too." The momentum shifted, with nods and murmurs of agreement flowing through the crowd. Excitement sparked a flurry of ideas. Someone proposed setting up community forums. Another suggested teaching skills. Smaller projects could evolve into something larger. Jack's face radiated pride as he watched her gain traction. Maria could feel her heart swelling, energized by this wave of support. But beneath that excitement, doubt still whispered at her edges. Was she capable of leading something so big? Would she be able to shoulder the responsibility? As the crowd continued brainstorming, she caught sight of a familiar face, the skeptical man. He hadn't thrown her off, he was invested, taking notes. Her heart danced between apprehension and a glimmer of hope. "What's your name?" she asked, breaking through the murmurs. "Ethan," he replied, finally meeting her gaze with a flicker of vulnerability. "Ethan," Maria echoed, grounding herself. "You're thinking about how we can really make an impact, aren't you?" He nodded slowly. "I see the potential here. If we can prove that these conversations matter, if we can get results, we could attract more than just attention, we could invoke change." A few simple phrases echoed through the air, igniting something deeper within her. Together, they could defy expectations. But how? Maria felt the reality blanketing over her. Change isn't easy. We'll face pushback, challenges, even failure. Exactly, Ethan replied, his voice steady. But what if we prepare for it? If we have a clear vision with actionable plans, we can counter the roadblocks. We can't be afraid of the challenge. His words resonated like a drumbeat in her chest. They needed to solidify their purpose, to shape a collective dream rooted in their experiences. It was about more than just survival, it was about thriving and creating a better tomorrow. "I'll share my story, and you'll share yours," Maria said, looking around. "Each one of us brings a piece of the puzzle. Together, we'll build something transformational." As the crowd erupted with encouragement, the room buzzed with possibilities. Ideas flickered like stars in the night sky, each more brilliant than the last. Yet Maria felt a well of questions tugging at her. Could they build a solid foundation? Could anyone really lead this fledgling mission? As the excitement settled into concrete action steps, she felt her heartbeat accelerate. The question loomed larger than ever: what if she truly committed to this cause? And in that charged moment, Maria realized she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was leading a movement that could change lives. But thoughts of doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. Would they trust her? Would she trust herself? "Let's sketch out our vision for the future over the next few days," she said, an ember of hope igniting her voice. "And then, let us meet here again." As the crowd dispersed, possibilities hung in the air like the scent of rain before a storm, electrifying and full of promise. But Maria understood that starting a movement wasn't just about gathering support. It meant navigating chaos, burdens, and raw emotions. Could she truly guide them through the storms ahead? Would her vision become a reality, or would this be yet another struggle lost to a fleeting moment? The days that followed were a blur for Maria. The excitement from the meeting lingered in the air, buzzing through her veins, but it came with a weight she hadn't anticipated. As she sat at her kitchen table, papers strewn around her, she felt the stark contrast between her dreams and the reality stretching before her. She pored over the notes from the meeting, the suggestions and ideas bursting with potential. But with each word read, doubt crept in. How did one small voice lead a movement? Yes, they could share stories, but was that enough? Was she enough? "Jack, do you think we can really do this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He was leaning against the counter, fiddling with his coffee mug, a picture of calm amidst her storm. "Of course we can," he replied, his smile unwavering. "You inspired them, Maria. They believe in you. That's the first step." "Belief isn't enough," she said, frustration bubbling. "The world doesn't change on belief. It changes through action. What if we fall flat on our faces? What if nobody shows up next time?" Jack moved to sit beside her, taking the papers and spreading them out. "Every movement started somewhere. Look at the bigger picture. You're not doing this alone. You've got Ethan, the others. You're all in it together." His support wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but she couldn't shake the tightness in her chest. I want to lead them, but what if I mess up? It's a huge responsibility. What if you don't? Jack countered, leaning closer, his eyes searching hers. What if this is your moment to shine? You've got the passion. You light up when you talk about it. Don't underestimate what that means. The next evening, Maria stood with Ethan and a few others at the community center, the air thick with anticipation. They were there to discuss their vision, to carve out a path from these budding ideas into something tangible. As they paced the room, sharing their thoughts, Maria felt the spark reigniting within her. I think we should start with personal stories, she suggested, looking around the circle. Let everyone feel the weight of where we've been. If people can connect with our struggles, they'll want to join us. Ethan nodded, already taking notes. Exactly. And we need to create a timeline. Let us look at what we can feasibly achieve in the next 3 months. It'll help keep us grounded. The group engaged, tossing around timelines and options, each voice a thread weaving their vision tighter. The more they talked, the more confidence surged through Maria. Ideas formed bonds. She could see the faces of those who would share their stories, faces that mirrored her own fears and hopes. As the session concluded, everyone exchanged messages and plans for their next gathering. A surge of energy filled the room as new friendships and alliances formed. Maria felt her heart swell. Was this the momentum she had longed for? But just as they began to disperse, Maria spotted Ethan lingering, his brow furrowed with thought. She approached him cautiously, unsure of what serious expression he might harbor. Everything okay? She asked softly. He hesitated, then sighed. I just can't help but wonder, what if we face resistance? There are people out there who want to hear our stories. How do we prepare for that? The question hung heavy in the air between them. Maria's heart thudded. The fear she had tried to bury resurfaced. What if they were met with criticism, or worse, indifference? She glanced back at the others, who laughed and hugged, their spirits high. I guess we find a way to prepare, she said finally, though even saying it didn't feel like enough. We'll have to build resilience as we grow. It's just, I don't completely know how yet. Ethan looked at her, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. None of us do. That's why we're in this together. We can lean on each other when the world tries to push us down. The camaraderie in those words ignited a flicker of hope. They were a team, a unit that could face whatever came at them. But still, a tremor of unease curled in her stomach. As she left the community center, Maria felt that familiar spark of doubt, clawing for attention. Was she truly ready to face the challenges ahead, the inevitable criticism and resistance? Could she guide this group through the darkness, even when doubt obscured their path? The journey had just begun, and the stakes felt higher than ever. Would they have the courage to stand together, or would the shadows of fear eclipse their dreams before they ever took flight? The following week, Maria was up early, her notebook open on the kitchen table. She scribbled down ideas, half-formed thoughts cluttering the pages. Each time her pencil hit the paper, she could feel a flicker of determination battling with doubt. Jack had promised to help her prepare for their next meeting, so she focused on rallying the stories that could unite them. Connecting over shared struggles felt like a beacon in the fog. Yet, the closer they got to the day, the more shadows danced in the corners of her mind. Let's talk strategy, Jack said as he strolled into the kitchen, interrupting her spiral of thoughts. He plopped down across from her, his presence steady and reassuring. What's next on our list? Maria inhaled deeply, forcing herself to rethink her worries. I want to ensure everyone feels safe sharing their stories. How do we prep for that? I mean, what if someone can't handle the emotions? Jack nodded, considering her words. That's vital. Maybe we could have a time for everyone to practice sharing in smaller groups first? It'll help build confidence. Good idea, Maria replied, the tension in her chest easing slightly. Every plan they made together felt like a step forward. But I think we also need to talk about how to handle rejection. We'll face criticism, there's no way around it. Yeah, that one be easy, Jack said thoughtfully. But remember, it's not about everyone accepting us right away. It's about planting seeds for change. Some people will need more time. Maria allowed a smile to break through the fog. Jack's words wrapped around her like a lifeline. You're right. We can focus on those who are ready to listen. They'll be our champions. Throughout the day, that motivation lingered with her. She quickly jotted down every stray thought that crossed her mind. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person yearning for their voices to be heard, every story crying out for understanding. The day of their meeting arrived, and Maria's heart raced. She arrived at the community center early, arranging chairs in a circle. Each seat felt like an open invitation, a safe space for the stories they were about to share. As the room filled, laughter and chatter filled the air, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. With each familiar face, she felt the weight of their shared purpose growing. Okay, everyone, she called out, her voice shaking with excitement and just a hint of trepidation. Let us gather around and get started. Ethan sat next to her, his eyes sparkling but watchful. They began with each person introducing themselves, sharing their hopes and what led them to this gathering. The words flowed, and tears mingled with laughter as they forged connections. But then, halfway through, a woman in the back spoke up, her voice low and choked. What if our stories aren't enough? What if nobody listens? The room fell quiet, each heart beating in tandem with the rising anxiety. Maria felt a knot twist in her stomach as she met the woman's eyes. This was the fear she had tried to sidestep, the question that loomed over them all. Your story is enough, Maria found herself saying, her voice steady now. Each experience matters. They're pieces of a puzzle that can lead to change. Together, they become powerful. But she sensed that her own words were not enough to wash away the fear smeared across the faces staring back at her. It was a moment laden with vulnerability, binding them in a way that felt both fragile and fierce. As they moved on, Maria felt the tension ebb and flow throughout the room. It surged again when they turned to the topic of their first public gathering. The stakes felt immense. Would the community stand with them? Or would they face the criticism Ethan had voiced? When the meeting wrapped up, Maria watched as people began to drift apart, laughter and connection still lingering in the air. Yet, that woman's question weighed heavily on her heart. Did I really prepare them for this? She wondered aloud, searching Ethan's face for reassurance. I think we'll face both acceptance and rejection, he replied quietly. But we can't let fear dictate how we show up. Would they find strength in their vulnerability? Or would the anxiety of rejection weigh them down before they even took their first step into the light? Maria woke up the next morning, her heart still heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. With the meeting behind them, she felt both relieved and anxious about what lay ahead. Their first public gathering was approaching fast, and the fear of failure prickled at her skin like 1,000 tiny needles. She slumped at the kitchen table, her notebook still open. The pages were filled with scribbles and half-thoughts, a chaotic reflection of her mind. Jack's voice echoed in her ears, it's about planting seeds. But doubt shadowed that hope. What if those seeds didn't sprout? Just then, a gentle knock on the door cut through her thoughts. It was Carla, a member from the meeting yesterday. Hey, can I come in? Carla's eyes shimmered with determination, but Maria detected a hint of fear beneath the surface. Of course, Maria replied, lifting her head. I was just thinking. Carla moved closer, her expression serious. I've been thinking about what I said yesterday. About my story. It's hard, you know? I want to share, but what if it's too much? What if it scares people away? Maria understood that familiar ache. I think that's a risk we all face, she admitted, pulling her chair out for them to sit side by side. But you want to be heard. And that matters. Your story, your truth, it connects us all. Carla nodded slowly, but her worry didn't vanish. What if it doesn't connect? What if I'm just too broken? Broken pieces can create the most beautiful mosaic, Maria said, practicing the words she wished someone had told her. She could feel the warmth spreading through her chest. You'd be sharing a part of yourself. That takes strength, and that's what will resonate with others. Yeah, but what if they judge? What if I'm not enough? Enough, Maria echoed, pondering the weight of that word. I think we should remind ourselves that we are enough, just as we are. I mean, how many times have we listened to others share their pain and felt less alone? Carla finally smiled, a hesitant but radiant expression. You really think so? I do, Maria assured her. We can create a space where everyone feels safe, no matter how they feel about their story. The thought invigorated her, a spark flared to life. You know what? Let's work on our stories together. We can help each other find the strength to share. As they began crafting their narratives, time blurred. They shared tears and laughter, probing the depths of their experiences, and finding new power in each other's company. It felt refreshing, like a bright morning after a long night. But later that evening, as Maria lay in bed, her mind flitted back to the looming event. What would happen if those who felt alienated or hurt by their stories shaded the discussion with negativity? The fear that had haunted her invited a new thought. What if they had an unexpected ally among the bigger voices, someone who believed in their cause? The morning of the public gathering arrived, and as sunlight spilled across her room, Maria felt different. Empowered. They could face everything together. At the community center, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation and nerves alike. As the chairs filled, Maria spotted familiar faces and new ones, each pair of eyes merging into a wave of hope. But as she took a deep breath, she caught sight of someone unexpected, a local businessman, someone whose influence could change everything. What did he want here? Was he truly interested, or was he just there to critique? She couldn't tell. A swirl of possibilities rushed through her. Maria turned to make eye contact with Jack and Carla, each of them hoping the same thing. As the gathering began, Maria felt a crescendo of emotions build within her, a mix of fear, excitement, and determination to forge ahead. Would this be the turning point they desperately needed? Or would their vulnerability be met with apathy? With her heart pounding, she took a step forward. Maria stepped to the front of the room, the microphone almost trembling in her hand. Nerves twisted tightly in her stomach, but she steadied her breath. Each face watching her felt like a promise. There was hope here, a chance for transformation. As she looked out, she could see Carla and Jack nodding in silent encouragement. Thank you all for being here, she started, her voice steadying as she spoke. We've gathered because we share something beautiful and messy. Each of us has a story that deserves to be told. A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience, and Maria felt a flicker of warmth in her chest. This was it. Here was the moment where vulnerability could bloom into strength. She glanced back at Carla, whose anxious expression started to soften, and at Jack, who offered a reassuring smile. Maria continued, each story is important. They matter because they connect us. When we listen and share, we find pieces of ourselves in one another. The local businessman, still sitting near the back, shifted in his seat, leaning forward as if the words were pulling him closer. Maria couldn't ignore him but had to focus on the crowd in front of her. An undercurrent of energy surged through the room as people shifted in their seats, eager to engage. One by one, they began to share. Carla spoke first, her voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. She painted a picture of resilience, of battles fought in the silent corners of her mind. The room held its breath, captivated by her honesty. Maria watched tears shimmer in some eyes, a raw acknowledgement of shared pain. Next, Jack took his turn to weave his story, filled with the frustrations of feeling unseen yet yearning for connection. He revealed moments of defeat but also glimmers of hope. With every shared story, The space felt charged with warmth, as if the walls themselves were embracing their truths. Yet, the businessman remained silent, his presence lingering like a storm cloud in her mind. What did he think of all this? Did he understand the weight of what was being shared? As the last speaker wrapped up, a wave of applause surged through the crowd, echoing their appreciation and encouragement. Maria stepped back to the microphone, the room resonating with a newfound bond. "Thank you to everyone who shared," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "These stories are what bind us, and they remind us we are not alone." Then, the businessman stood up. "Excuse me," he said, his voice booming with authority. "I'd like to say something." He strode to the front, the room falling silent. Expectation hung in the air like an invisible thread, pulling everyone closer. Maria could feel her heart racing, a mix of curiosity and trepidation blooming inside her. He looked around, making eye contact with each person in the room. "What you've done here today is powerful," he began, "and I've seen how much potential this community has to grow. I want to help." Gasps filled the room, and Maria's mind whirled. Help? But what kind of help? Was this some sort of corporate takeover of their vulnerability? As the businessman continued speaking, Maria found herself torn between skepticism and hope. Could this unexpected ally become the strength they needed, or would his intentions lead them down a path they didn't want to walk? The hushed excitement around her thrummed with anticipation, and Maria felt the weight of the moment settle in. This could change everything, but at what cost? The room buzzed, but one question loomed large in her heart: were they ready to accept this lifeline, or did they risk losing the very essence of what they were trying to build? The days after the gathering unfolded like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. Maria felt both exhilarated and consumed by curiosity regarding the businessman's intentions. As she and the group celebrated their shared stories, the fragility of their new alliance hung in the air. Could they trust this man who had stepped into their lives so suddenly? She met with Jack and Carla regularly, brainstorming ways to harness the energy from that impactful gathering. Questions hung like clouds overhead. Should they pursue this potential partnership, or should they hold tightly to their original mission? The thought of losing control over their narrative felt unnerving. Yet, as ideas swirled among them, Maria saw something beautiful. Each conversation brought clarity. They were no longer just individuals sharing pain, they were a community bound by hope, strength, and desire for change. "I want to reach out to him," Maria finally said, her voice breaking the stillness in Jack's apartment. He raised an eyebrow, concern etching lines on his forehead. "What if he's not genuine?" Jack countered, folding his arms. "This is a huge decision. I know what we shared in that room, but think about it. What if he really wants to help? We can channel that energy into something bigger." Maria's heart raced with possibilities. "Together, we could advocate for real worker rights." Jack considered her words, his gaze steady. "All right, let us take it slow. But if it feels off, we pivot." With a deep breath, Maria decided to reach out. She sent a message, nervously typing her thoughts about collaboration, community strength, and the impact of storytelling. Waiting for a response felt like watching paint dry, every second stretching like hours. But soon, his reply pinged in her inbox. "I'd be honored to meet and discuss this further." A few days later, they gathered in a cafe, the charming chatter mixing with the smell of fresh coffee. When the businessman, Alex, arrived, Maria's breath caught in her throat. He was everything she expected: confident, polished, yet approachable. But was there still the shadow of ulterior motives resting behind his sharp gaze? "Thank you for having me," he said, extending his hand to Maria first. She shook it, a tremor running through her. "Thank you for coming. We appreciate your interest in our stories," she said, her voice steady despite the underlying tension. "I believe everyone deserves to be heard." "What you all did the other day was remarkable," he began, voice warm, but Maria caught glimpses of corporate jargon mixed with genuine intent. They talked about ideas. Alex spoke of initiatives his company was involved with, describing plans for community outreach, workshops, and platforms for sharing narratives. At first blush, everything sounded great. But Maria's instincts warned her. She sensed that beneath the surface, there was more at play. For me, it's about impact, and I think we can do something truly significant together, Alex finished, leaning forward, genuine enthusiasm glowing in his eyes. What's in it for you? Maria asked, surprising even herself. The question hung in the air, sharp and probing, challenging yet necessary. Alex paused, then took a breath, his eyes softening a touch. You're right. I've built my career on the backs of workers like you. This is my chance to make a difference, to own my past mistakes and use them as a bridge for change. The tension in the air lightened ever so slightly. As Maria listened, something shifted within her. Perhaps Alex wasn't here just to seize control. Perhaps he wanted to be part of their journey, to change cornerstones of the industry they sought to transform. Still, the caution sat in Maria's chest. We've built this community on trust, and we need to ensure any collaboration honors that. It's vital we stay true to ourselves. Alex nodded, respect evident. I'm committed. I want to learn from you. This isn't just about my vision, it's about bringing your voices into the light. Beneath their shared intent, Maria felt another layer unravel, the possibility that she wasn't alone in this endeavor. As they moved forward, it wasn't just her burden anymore, it became theirs. In the weeks that followed, collaboration blossomed. They came together to create workshops, initiatives to support advocacy, and a platform to amplify their voices. The group transformed beyond simply sharing stories. They became a united front, demanding change on behalf of those who felt invisible. Yet, the road wasn't easy. Resistance met them at every turn. Maria faced pushback from those fearful of exposing systems broken for far too long. But amidst that, vibrant sparks of solidarity ignited as well. Each time they shared their stories, they gained allies, a community widening its arms to welcome them. One day, as they gathered in the community center, Maria stood before her friends, finding strength in their presence. This isn't the end, she said, her voice unwavering. This is just the beginning of our story, not just for us, but for every worker left in the dark. Together, we'll rise. With each nod, and every clap reverberating through the room, she looked around at the faces not just hers, but of many sharing this journey. No longer did she feel the doubts that had clawed at her. They were a family now. As the first week of their advocacy project concluded, Maria stood by the door, watching eager faces stream in. A familiar sense of warmth filled her heart. Could it be that the fear she once harbored had finally transformed into hope? Maria! Carla shouted, bursting through the door. What's going on? Maria asked, elated. We made it! Carla exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The feedback is incredible. People want to hear more. Laughter erupted, and joy echoed through the center. Overwhelmed, Maria felt her heart swell to its limits. This was change, the very force she had doubted, now thriving in their community. Alex approached, an approving nod on his face. In that moment, she realized it was never about the fear that had plagued her but the love and commitment between them that would carry them past any barrier they faced. With open hearts and a fierce desire for justice, Maria and her community were not just voices, but souls united in a quest for transformation. Together, they were stronger. Together, they would rise. And at that moment, she knew, they had not just made it, they had finally stepped into the light. Now, as you witness this transformation, I urge you to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and empower. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this transformation. Your support is vital. And leave a like now to feed the algorithm, help us grow, and continue telling these impactful stories. Let your voice be part of this movement. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending.